When the enemy rises against you, have you ever been betrayed by someone you trusted with all your heart? Have you ever felt the pain of deception, manipulation, and lies from those who once stood beside you? Perhaps it was a spouse who broke their vows, a close friend who abandoned you, or a family member who used guilt and shame to control you. For many, this isn't just a past wound, it's your present reality. You find yourself in the middle of a battle you never wanted, struggling to understand the pain, confusion, and rejection. You cry out to God, asking, "Why did they do this to me? Why didn't I see it coming? Lord, what am I supposed to do now?" Let me remind you of something powerful today. God sees everything. He is not blind to the injustice you've suffered. He is not deaf to the words spoken against you, and He is certainly not indifferent to your pain. But here's where many of us get it wrong. We assume that to win, we must fight the way the world fights. We often feel the need to prove them wrong, to get even, or to make them recognize our worth. But the truth is, God has already given you a divine strategy to overcome this battle. This isn't about revenge or proving a point. It's about walking in such wisdom and strength that those who sought to bring you down will regret ever underestimating a child of God. If you've ever been hurt, manipulated, or taken advantage of, this message is for you. Get ready, because God is about to equip you with supernatural wisdom. And when you walk in it, those who tried to harm you will have no choice but to regret it. Number 1. Recognize the enemy's tactics. There are battles in life that come without warning, attacks that strike when you least expect them, and wounds that cut deeper than any physical pain. But what makes these battles even harder is that they often come from those we once trusted, those we once loved. The betrayal of a friend, the manipulation of a spouse, the deception of a family member. These are the wounds that linger, the ones that keep you awake at night, doubting everything you once believed. The enemy is deceptive. He doesn't always attack with open aggression. He doesn't always arrive with an army at the gate. No, he is subtle. He moves in shadows, through whispers, through doubt, through the slow erosion of your confidence and self-worth. He operates through people, even those who claim to follow Christ. He works through manipulation, through gaslighting, through guilt. Perhaps you felt it firsthand. The slow unraveling of a relationship where little by little you were made to feel small, unworthy, unlovable. It didn't begin as an obvious attack. It started with small comments, tiny criticisms masked as concern. Words designed to make you second-guess your own reality. You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. No one else would tolerate you like I do. Maybe if you just tried harder, things would be different. These aren't just words, they are weapons. The enemy doesn't need swords or spears when he can use words to trap you, to bind you, to keep you from stepping into your God-given authority. He knows that if he can make you doubt yourself, he can make you question God's calling on your life. So he plants seeds of insecurity. He makes you wonder if you're truly hearing from God. He makes you feel foolish for setting boundaries. He convinces you that suffering in silence is the same as godly endurance. And before you even realize it, you are living under the weight of someone else's control, spiritually enslaved without even knowing it. But listen closely. God never intended for you to be a prisoner to someone else's manipulation. This is why Jesus warned us in Matthew 7:15 to beware of wolves in sheep's clothing. Not everyone who enters your life is sent by God. Not every kind word is spoken with pure intentions. Not everyone who claims to be a brother or sister in Christ is truly walking in the Spirit. Some are placed in your path to distract, derail, and destroy. The Bible tells us in 2 Corinthians 11 verse 14 that Satan disguises himself as an angel of light. That means deception doesn't always appear as something obviously evil. Sometimes it looks like a friend. Sometimes it looks like a mentor. Sometimes it even looks like a spiritual leader. This is why discernment is essential, why we cannot afford to live in spiritual blindness. Because when the enemy comes, he doesn't always arrive through an open adversary. He often comes through the person you trust the most, and when he does, he uses their words as weapons aimed at your identity. You're too much. No, you are exactly who God created you to be. You should just stay silent. No, your voice carries power and is meant to speak truth. You're nothing without me. No, Your worth is found in Christ alone. Do you see the pattern? Every attack is meant to strip you of your authority, your confidence, and your faith. And this is where many people fall into the trap of fighting battles God never intended them to fight. They argue, they defend themselves, they try to prove their worth to people who never intended to see them clearly in the first place. But hear me today, you do not owe an explanation to someone who is determined to misunderstand you. Jesus himself stood before false accusers, people who twisted his words, misrepresented his actions, and sought to destroy his reputation. And do you know how he responded? He remained silent and gave no answer. Mark 14:61. Why? Because the truth does not need to be defended, it needs to be revealed. Sisters, this is how you win. Not by fighting the way they expect you to. Not by trying to prove yourself to people who will never acknowledge your worth. Not by draining yourself in battles that steal your peace. You win by standing firm in your identity. Because let me tell you, the moment they realize they cannot control you, they will regret ever trying to break you. The very ones who tried to manipulate you will have no choice but to watch as God lifts you higher. The ones who spread lies about you will witness your favor firsthand. The ones who tried to diminish you will be left in silence as you rise stronger, untouched by their schemes. But first, you must recognize the attack for what it is. You must see beyond the illusion of friendship, the false humility, and the sweet words laced with deception. You must discern who is truly for you and who is simply playing a role in your downfall. The Bible says in Psalm 1, "Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers." That means who you allow into your life matters. It means not everyone deserves access to you. It means some doors must be shut, some conversations must come to an end, and some relationships must be surrendered to God. This is not weakness, it is wisdom. Because the truth is, you will never step into the fullness of your calling while still chasing the approval of those who were never meant to walk with you. And this is where the enemy truly regrets coming against you. When he realizes that his attack did not break you, but built you. Instead of making you bitter, it made you wiser. Instead of making you weaker, it made you stronger. Instead of silencing you, it made you bolder. And when you rise, not in vengeance, but in wisdom, confidence, and divine authority, the very ones who tried to control, break, or silence you will have no choice but to watch as God lifts you higher than they ever imagined. This is the power of recognizing the enemy's tactics, because when you see the trap, you no longer fall into it. When you see the attack, you no longer take it personally. And when you discern who is truly for you and who is against you, you stop wasting energy on battles that don't matter. Instead, you stand firm, unshaken, immovable. And that, my sisters, is when they will regret ever trying to bring you down. Number 2. God's strategy. How to respond to the attack. Every believer faces a moment like this, a crossroads where they've been betrayed, manipulated, used, or cast aside by someone they trusted. The wound is fresh, the sting is real, and the urge to fight back is overwhelming. You want them to feel the pain they caused. You want them to understand what they did. You want justice. But let me ask you, sister, whose justice are you seeking? Yours or God's? Because if you seek revenge on your terms, you will always come up empty. You will exhaust yourself trying to explain yourself to people who don't care. You will waste your energy on battles that don't matter. You will surrender your peace to people who were never meant to have access to you in the first place. But if you respond God's way, not only will you rise above the attack, but you will stand so strong that your enemies will regret ever coming against you. They will regret underestimating you. They will regret mistaking your kindness for weakness. They will regret thinking they could break a woman of faith. This is why we must learn to fight differently. The weapons of our warfare are not of the flesh. 2 Corinthians 10:4. We do not fight as the world does. We fight with wisdom, with silence, and with stillness. And this is where many women stumble. We engage in battles God never called us to fight. We try to defend ourselves against lies. We argue with manipulative people. We explain ourselves to those who are determined to misunderstand us. We take every attack personally, as if the enemy's words carry more weight than God's truth. And when we do this, we hand our power to people who were never meant to have any authority over us. But today, that ends. It's time to take back what was never theirs to hold. I want you to remember these 4 principles. Don't defend, don't engage, don't explain, don't personalize. Because when you master these, you strip every attack of its power without even lifting a finger. The strongest response to an attack is not defense, it is silence. The moment you feel the need to defend yourself, you have already given power to your accuser. You've made their lies worth answering, their manipulation worth debating, their distorted reality worth your time. But not everything deserves a response. Not every accusation requires a defense. Not every battle is worth your energy. The enemy knows that if he can keep you explaining yourself, justifying yourself, and pleading your case, he can keep you distracted from your purpose. He can drain you, exhaust you, and wear you down until you begin to doubt yourself. He wants you to believe that your worth is something that must be proven, instead of something that has already been declared by God. And isn't that the pattern? You try to defend yourself against false accusations, twisted words, and blame that isn't yours to carry. But the more you speak, the more they distort the truth. Every word you offer them becomes a weapon in their hands. Every explanation becomes a trap they use to manipulate you further. Jesus himself stood before his accusers in silence. Imagine that moment. The King of Kings, the Son of God, the one who had the power to summon legions of angels to silence every lie, chose to say nothing. He did not beg for understanding. He did not defend his innocence. He did not waste his energy trying to convince those whose minds were already made up. He was oppressed and afflicted, yet he did not open his mouth. He was led like a lamb to the slaughter, and as a sheep before its shearers is silent, so he did not open his mouth. Isaiah 53:7. Why? Because he knew the truth did not need to be defended. It only needed to be revealed. His power was in his silence. His authority was in his stillness. His victory was in his refusal to engage in a war of words with those who were determined to misunderstand him. This is what we often fail to grasp. When you refuse to defend yourself, you force others to wrestle with the truth on their own. You take away their ability to feed off your frustration. You deny them the chance to twist your words into something they were never meant to be. You see, when you respond to the manipulator, the deceiver, or the one seeking control, you are playing right into their hands. They want you angry. They want you emotional, desperate, and drained. Because as long as you are defending yourself, you are fighting on their battlefield. But the moment you choose silence, you shift the battleground. Suddenly, they are the ones scrambling, uncertain of how to manipulate the situation when you refuse to play along. This is why God says, "Be still and know that I am God." Psalm 46:10. There is power in stillness. There is strength in silence. There is victory in refusing to defend yourself. And here's the truth the enemy hopes you never realize. The truth always comes out. It may take time. It may not unfold the way you expect, but God is your defender. The Lord will fight for you. You need only to be still. Exodus 14. So let them talk. Let them twist the story. Let them paint you as the villain. You don't have to waste another moment proving yourself to people who were never interested in seeing the truth. Your character will speak for itself. Your peace will silence them. Your favor will expose their deception. And when all is said and done, they will regret ever trying to manipulate, deceive, or break you. Number 3. Don't engage in their drama. The enemy's most dangerous weapon is not the lie itself, it's the reaction it provokes. It's not the attack, but how you respond to it. Because as long as you stay engaged in the battle, you keep feeding it. As long as you react, explain, and try to convince them of the truth, they still have power over you. Have you ever noticed how manipulative people thrive on your response? They say something cruel, and the moment you react, they twist your words. They push your buttons, and when you get emotional, they call you unstable. They provoke you, and when you set a boundary, they make you seem like the problem. This isn't accidental, it's a calculated game. They know that if they can pull you into their chaos, they can keep you distracted from your purpose. If they can bait you into an argument, They can shift the focus away from their own actions and make you question yourself. But here's what you need to remember. Not every battle is yours to fight. Not every insult deserves a response. Not every accusation requires your energy. Not every trap set before you is meant to be walked into. Jesus understood this better than anyone. The Pharisees constantly tried to drag him into pointless debates. They asked loaded questions, hoping to trap him in his own words. They baited him, hoping he would react. But over and over again, Jesus refused to stoop to their level. Jesus knew their thoughts and said, "Why are you trying to trap me?" Matthew 22:18. Do you see that? He recognized their game and refused to play it. Because here's the truth. You will never win against someone who is not interested in the truth. A manipulator does not argue with you to understand your perspective. They argue with you to exhaust you, confuse you, and wear you down until you begin doubting yourself. This is why Jesus gave us such a powerful instruction. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Matthew 7:6. Do you see what he's saying? You are valuable. Your energy is valuable. Your words are valuable. Your peace is valuable. And not everyone deserves access to them. When you engage in unnecessary arguments, drama, and endless explanations, you are taking the precious pearls God has given you and tossing them into the mud. And what happens? They are trampled on, twisted, mocked, and used against you. Stop feeding it. When they say something cruel, let them talk. When they try to bait you into an argument, walk away. When they insult you, manipulate you, or guilt trip you, don't respond. This is not weakness, it's wisdom. Because here's the secret. When you stop engaging, something powerful happens. The person who thrives on manipulation begins to lose control. They depend on your reaction to fuel their power over you. When you remove that reaction, they start to panic. They escalate. They push harder. But the more you stay silent, the more they expose themselves. And eventually, they self-destruct. Because what happens when a fire has no fuel? It burns out. This is exactly why Proverbs 26:20 says, "Without wood a fire goes out, without a gossip a quarrel dies down." When you stop feeding their drama, they have nothing left to fight with. And this is when everything shifts. Because when you walk away unshaken, unbothered, and at peace, they will come to a realization they never saw coming. You were never weak. You were never powerless. You were simply choosing where to invest your energy. And now, they no longer have access to you. They no longer have control over you. They can no longer provoke you. They can no longer manipulate your emotions. And when they realize that, they will regret ever trying to pull you into their chaos. There comes a moment when you understand that no matter how clearly you speak, no matter how much proof you provide, no matter how patiently you explain, some people will still twist your words, question your motives, and refuse to see the truth. And when that moment comes, you have to make a choice. Will you keep explaining yourself to those who have already decided not to understand you? Or will you stand firm in the truth God has spoken over your life? Manipulative people demand explanations, not because they seek clarity, but because they seek control. They will act confused when you set a boundary. They will demand to know why you are stepping back. They will play the victim, pretending they have no idea what they did. They will make you feel like you owe them a reason for choosing peace. But listen, you owe no one an explanation for protecting your spirit. People who genuinely love and respect you will not require you to defend your peace. They will not demand that you prove your worth. They will not pressure you to justify your decisions. It is only those who benefited from your silence, your compliance, and your exhaustion who will insist that you keep explaining yourself. Jesus never explained himself to those who had already rejected him. He never sat down with the Pharisees to plead his case. He never wasted time justifying his actions to people whose hearts were hardened. That's why he warned us. Do not throw your pearls to pigs. If you do, they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Do you see the wisdom in this? Your energy is a pearl. Your words are pearls. Your peace is a pearl. And some people do not deserve them. When someone asks for an explanation but has already chosen to misunderstand you, your silence is your answer. When someone demands a justification for your boundaries, your peace is your response. When someone tries to manipulate you into proving yourself, your confidence is your defense. A manipulator will never be satisfied with your explanation. They will never say, "Oh, I see your point. I respect your decision." No, they will twist your words. They will use them against you. They will turn them into another opportunity to control you. So stop giving them access to your peace. Stop making their confusion your responsibility. Stop explaining what God has already confirmed in your spirit. Because when you finally refuse to explain, defend, or justify yourself, you take back your power. Something incredible happens. They lose their grip on you. And when everything settles, they will regret ever believing they had power over you. Number 4. Stop taking it personally. One of the enemy's greatest lies is convincing you that how people treat you determines your worth, that their rejection means you aren't enough, that their betrayal means you aren't worthy of loyalty, that their manipulation means you must have done something wrong. But here's the truth you need to remember today. What they did to you was never about you. It was about them. Broken people break others. Insecure people attack confidence. Controlling people resent those they cannot manipulate. Those who thrive on chaos despise those who walk in peace. Their actions were never a reflection of your value. They were a reflection of their own brokenness. And when you take their words, their rejection, their cruelty, and make it personal, you're placing your identity in their hands instead of in God's truth. Look at Jesus. He was mocked, betrayed, ridiculed, falsely accused, crucified. Not because he lacked anything, but because his presence exposed the darkness in others. He was hated not because he was wrong, but because he was right. And if even the Son of God was attacked for standing in truth, what makes you think you won't be? You meant evil against me, but God meant it for good. Genesis 50:20. Do you see what Joseph was saying? His own brothers betrayed him, sold him, and abandoned him. But in the end, it was never really about him. It was about what God was doing in his life. It was about the promotion that was coming, the purpose that was being shaped, the destiny that was unfolding. And the same is true for you. You weren't attacked because you were weak. You were attacked because you carry something too powerful to be ignored. Your light made them uncomfortable. Your boundaries made them angry. Your growth made them envious. Your wisdom made them insecure. That's why they tried to tear you down, discredit you, and diminish you, because what you carried exposed what they lacked. So do not let their actions define you. Do not let their betrayal break you. Do not let their words take root in your spirit. You were never too much. You were never unworthy. You were never the problem. And when you finally stop carrying the weight of their brokenness, when you stop taking their actions personally, when you rise above the insecurity that made them attack you in the first place, you will stand so tall that they will regret ever believing they could bring you down. Number 5. Making them regret losing you, God's way. There comes a moment when everything changes, when those who tried to break you realize they failed, when the ones who doubted you see that you were never weak, when those who attempted to manipulate you understand that their words, their tactics, and their games no longer have power over you. But here's the key. You don't make them regret it by seeking revenge. You don't make them regret it by arguing or trying to prove them wrong. You don't make them regret it by forcing them to see your worth. No. You make them regret it by thriving. There is nothing more unsettling to someone who wanted to control you than watching you rise, heal, and flourish without them. They expected you to stay broken. They thought you would keep chasing their approval. They believed their rejection would destroy you. But it didn't. You grew stronger. You became wiser. You drew closer to God. And that is what they never saw coming. God's plan was always bigger. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup overflows. Strength. Do you see what that means? While they were plotting against you, God was preparing a blessing for you. While they were trying to tear you down, God was lifting you up. While they were attempting to block your path, God was making a way for you. And one day, They will have no choice but to watch as God elevates you beyond anything they ever imagined. They will regret ever thinking you needed them. They will regret believing they could silence you. They will regret underestimating what God was doing in your life. But here's the truth. You don't even have to witness their regret. You don't need an apology. You don't have to look back. You don't have to wonder if they ever realized what they lost. Because by the time they regret it, you'll be too busy thriving to care. The greatest power you have is not improving yourself, defending yourself, or making them see your worth. Your power is in knowing who you are in Christ. Walking away is your victory. When you stop engaging in pointless battles, when you distance yourself from manipulative people, when you refuse to justify yourself to those who never wanted to understand you, you take back the authority that God has already given you. You don't need their approval. You don't need their validation. You don't need their understanding. Because you are already chosen, already loved, already victorious. No weapon formed against you shall prosper. Isaiah 54:17. Those who tried to break you will realize they failed. Those who thought they had power over you will see they never did. But by then, you will have already moved forward. Because the real victory isn't in making them regret it, it's in becoming everything they tried to stop you from being.